Ja, so welkom aan al die luisteraars. Seizoen 2, episode 1 van hierdie ding. And tonight we've got a very special guest, but it's also a special occasion because hierdie ding goes English for the first time.
Correct.
And we've asked our guests to bear with us with our very broken Afrikaans English. But we've got one of the greatest to ever do it in his field. Don't know how we managed to pull this off, but tonight we have the privilege of chatting to Mr. Steyn, ex-Protea cricket player. Welcome, Dale. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, donkey. It's about the most Afrikaans you'll get out of me.
That's what we expect.
We were doing sound checks and accent checks for an hour before you came to make sure we were right. As most of our listeners would know, we're very Afrikaans.
We're known for clinking ice and glasses and Afrikaans.
No,
if you haven't realized, it's a very social podcast, and the trademark of it is the sound that this makes every week. But we'll try to keep that at a minimum and keep the Afrikaans at a maximum. And we're just honored and privileged to have you here tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I guess we chatted a bit outside now before we started recording, and we chatted a bit about just general things and your background and so on. But we're also very much aware, due to your Phalaborwa Express nickname, that you grew up north. And like you mentioned, some of your family's from Zimbabwe, right?
Yeah.
So I guess just to start off, we like to give the listeners a bit of background on our guest. So we just want to know what it was like growing up in Phalaborwa. What did you keep yourself busy with? And how was those early days?
Yeah, so I think my family moved from Zim to Phalaborwa. I think they went to a funeral, actually. And at this funeral, they were asking the guys if anybody had job experiences in this and that and everything. And my grandfather, my mom's father, was there. And he's like, yes, I can do this. And my sons and my son-in-laws can do this. And they said, right, well, you can have the job, but everyone's got to come. So they all moved out of Zim, ended up in Phalaborwa. And then, 3 years later, in 1983, I came along. And I spent my first 18 years growing up there in this tiny little town, and then moved to Pretoria. Things happened quite quickly for me, and then I was playing for South Africa not long after that. But growing up in the Kruger, it was growing up in the bush. It was pretty insane. That life. I still go visit, my family still live there now. I go and visit them there because you can't get that anywhere else. When you tell people you're walking down the street and there's elephant in the street or there's lion in the street or something, they say bullshit. But you go there and it's real. I lived it for a long time, and it happens now when I take friends down to go in for a weekend. They leave that place, they're like, what's happening here?
Yeah.
So it's still like that now. It was awesome growing up there.
I must ask, where did the cricket thing start? Because it seems almost like an obscure place for a Protea fast bowler to originate from. I mean, if you look at school sports nowadays, like everyone is from some high profile school somewhere, or there's some influence playing into it. I'm just curious to know where it started for you.
Well, I kind of always felt like all fast bowlers tend to come from random places, that's just one of those things. Mackay and Tini is the Mdingi Express, comes out of a small place just outside of East London. Morne Morkel was from Vereniging, Mashanta Lange is one of South Africa's quickest. He's from Zanin, where I grew up in Phalaborwa. So we kind of rope the fast bowlers tend to come from anywhere, because fast bowling, I suppose, is a skill that you can't really teach it. I can make you bowl a little bit faster, but it's a real, it's just a skill that you get given. You can either bowl fast or you can't. Not everyone can be Usain Bolt, and not everyone can be a Morne Morkel, or but the batsmen, the good batters, always tend to come from good schools, because good schools are good coaching. They teach you good technique. And I would say 80 to 90% of your good batters are always going to come out of your high-profile good schools. Yeah. Whereas the bowlers are a little bit more raw. They tend to come from anywhere,
stranger characters.
Yeah. So I can attest to you can't just bowl fast, because I used to be I wouldn't call it a pace bowler, but not a spin bowler. Yeah. And no matter how hard I bent my back, I just couldn't get the pace up to a notable level to bowl quick bounces. So I guess that makes sense, right?
Yeah, it's tough. You can teach it. You can make somebody bowl a little bit faster, but it's almost near impossible to take someone who's never played the game and just teach them how to bowl 150 k's an hour, or like in baseball, get them to throw a pitch at 100 miles an hour, something like that. It's not going to happen.
It's interesting how that works, because I've also heard like the action of bowling is actually like very unnatural and not like healthy at all.
Not at all.
So I wonder what happens in your body for that to become like, this is something you're good at. You're good at this thing that is actually so bad for you.
Yeah, it's crazy. I've gotten away unscathed. I'm not going to lie. Like, there's nothing. Okay, right now I've got a broken leg, but that's like a surfing injury. Let's not talk about that. But bowling never hurt me in any ways. I broke my shoulder with bowling.
Towards the end, right?
Yeah. I had but I mean, that could have happened at any time. I had a bad tear in the not meniscus, whatever it is, over here at the back. I can't remember the name, and it led to a broken bone. But I walk away now. I can throw. I can still bowl. I can run. There's nothing that's achy and sore. But sometimes these guys walk away from the sport, and it's like, okay, got to get a new knee. You know, like. My arm doesn't work the way it did,
You're probably luckier than most.
Yeah, I'm very lucky. I don't even have dodgy toes, and fast bowlers' toes is a thing, I got away quite lucky.
What age did you pick up a ball the first time, do you remember? And also with that, a lot of cricketers, you think about Steve Smith, starts out as a kind of leg spinner for like early on, and then ends up being one of the greatest batsman of all time.
Yeah.
Were you always just a fast bowler?
No.
Or did you aspire to be something else and then realize, well, I can bowl fast, it's probably the best bet?
No, look, growing up in Palabora meant that everyone that was around me was like no good. Okay, so I could open the batting, I was the best batsman, and then I was the best bowler, I was the best fielder, obviously, then you end up maybe somewhere along the line even captaining the team, because you're the best player. Mm-hmm. But it's only when you move out of there do you quickly realize where you are in the pecking order, So when I moved to the Titans, I realized, yes, I'm not as good a batter as these guys are. They're opening batters, I'm probably more a 5 or a 6. And then I realized, well, I'm not as good as David Miller is, actually. Like I'm probably more an 8 or a 9, and then you start to shift.
And you see you right at the end, and it's
and then the next thing you know, you're batting 11. But you also realize you can only focus so much energy on what you do. Like, so I take my hat off to like someone like Jock Callis, because he was like, he took I don't know how many test wickets he took, but he bowled, he caught everything, and then he made a bucket load of runs, and then he had to train for all 3 of those disciplines. Whereas I was just like, all right, I'm just going to be a fast bowler. This is easy. All I have to do is do that. And like a little bit of batting, so make sure that I don't get killed when I go out there to bat,
Certainly we'll get to that, man, also later.
Yeah.
But I'm really interested to find out, like moving from the school cricketing system to then the setup at the Titans. I think you just touched upon it a bit, but that step up, like it must have been quite big. And did you feel? I know you said that fast bowling is such a weird thing. It's not something really you can coach. But did you feel like you were almost like underprepared for that step? Maybe from as a result of the area that you played your cricket in, that maybe wasn't the most competitive, as you just said.
Yeah.
Was that a big thing to adjust to?
It was. Guys, I don't want to lie to you. I'll still tell you like my life story here. But anyway, it was quite funny. Like I was in the academy my first year out of school. I was in the Limpopo Academy, and we had some cricketers that had come all around from all over the country that had come to be in this academy. And at the end of the year, we had trials for the Step Up, which was the Titans Academy.
Oh, okay.
So we all kind of went, all of us in that Limpopo Academy went through to Pretoria. It's one of the first times that I'd really been to Pretoria before. And we went for trials for the Titans Academy. And the reason why I went was because everyone said to me, Hatfield Square is the best party place in South Africa.
Nice.
Yes. And that's not a word of a lie. And I went there, and the trials were the Saturday and the Sunday. We arrived on the Thursday. I think I got drunk Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night.
The fast bowler strikes again.
Yeah. I can't remember the trials at all. It was an absolute blur. And then we all went back on the Monday to our academy, and I was the only player from the Limpopo Academy that got selected to go to the academy, but to the Titans Academy. But on top of that, the head coach of the Titans Academy said he wanted me to play in his club team in Pretoria, and then they would start paying me. So I got paid 500 Rand a game, and we
Not
played
bad.
double headers. We played Saturday, Sunday. So I was getting like $1,000 a weekend, you know.
Yeah.
And at 19, like
That's a lot of money
think
back
back in 2002, 1,000 rand a weekend. I was making money. I was like it was just booze every weekend.
Just well
you
in
know?
Hatfield Square was
Yeah,
$1,000.
that was it. And so, yeah, the step up was like I wasn't even thinking. You know, I was just having the best time, and I was getting paid to do it. And then all of a sudden, like you get into the Titans Academy, and you start to get noticed by the likes of Daryl Cullinan, who's playing for the Titans or Eastern Titans at the time. Dave Nosworthy, who was the head coach, and these guys now start to. When they walk past you, they used to just walk past you. Now they greet you. They go, "Hey, Steyn, how did you go this weekend?" And all of a sudden you go, "What? You know, Daryl Cullen knows my name, you know, like, and he's interested in what I'm doing. Best I start to sort my shit out here a little bit, you know."
Yeah, I wasn't asking about the body
body
scene.
Exactly.
How'd you go this weekend?
Exactly. Yeah. So it was probably like 6 or 8 months later. Like that was at the end of 2002. And like 6 or 8 months later, like that had all worn off, and it was like, okay, it's go time now. You know, this is what I want. You know, and then they threw like they put a contract in front of you with a little bit of money, where they say, "Oh, we'll pay you 100,000 rand for the year." You know, which at the time for me was huge. I was like, "Yeah, cool," and I was like, "Where do I sign?" You know, and then from there, it just turned into becoming a real professional. You know, and it was like now you're working with a trainer all the time. Now you're working with a bowling coach. Not just a head coach, you know, there's specifics, you know, and all of a sudden you realize you're in it now, you know. So, yeah, it was a hectic step, like you were talking about, but that first initial stage there, I didn't even know there was a step, dude. I was just barging through it, you know. Yeah.
So, I mean, I want to sidetrack this a bit. You mentioned something saying that you had Hatfield Square as the best and biggest jaw place ever. Now, you've been around the world a bit. Where does Hatfield Square, looking back now, rank in terms of all the joining places you've been?
Oh,
because I never had the privilege to go to Hatfield Square growing
No.
up in the Cape.
Did you ever hear of Drop Zone? Drop Zone was
No.
Drop Zone was the place in Hatfield Square, and it was also nicknamed Mordor for a reason. It was dangerous. Yeah. Now that I think back at it, like there's. Yeah, I mean, at the time it was heaven, you know. There was students everywhere, and booze was cheap, and it was amazing, you know. But like, yeah, if I think about it now, I probably wouldn't go near that place. No, like,
Mordor for a reason.
yeah.
Yeah, so sorry, actually, I sidetracked that, but I wanted to know that. So you arrived in the Limpopo Academy, presumably as someone who sees themselves as an opening batter and bowler.
Yeah.
And captain and star fielder or whatever, and then you go to trials. At what stage did you realize, actually, I need to be just a fast bowler? Or did that progress naturally?
No,
like
it progressed naturally. It was weird because my first year in the academy, the Limpopo Academy, I walked in, and I think in the first month I got like a bad hamstring groin injury. So I couldn't bowl, but I could bat. So I was also there. They had recognized me as more like a bowler who could bat later. But in high school, I was like a number 3 batter, you know. So I was like, okay, that's fine. Excuse me. And then because I couldn't bowl, I said, well, let me open the batting, and I'll just make, you know, I'll utilize the power play, or the first 6 overs, or the first 10 overs was back then. Like, I'll bat aggressively. And I ended up becoming the batter. I got the award for Batsman of the Year. Yeah. Which was crazy. So when I went to the Titans Academy, that kind of filled me up with a little bit of confidence, because I was like, well, I'm coming here now as a batter who can also bowl, you know, like, or as a bowler who can definitely bat. And as soon as I got there, they were like, they saw my speed. They were like, they just didn't even
look at your batting.
Yeah, it was just put aside, you know. So for like, I'd say a solid like 4 to 6 years, like I hardly batted. Like after that, it was just focused on bowling. They were like, we've got enough guys that can bat, but we've got no one that can do what you do with the ball. So you must just do this. And then only like 6 or 7 years later, like I was saying, that I started to then get back into my batting. And we went in 2008. We went to Australia. I got a 76.
No, we definitely want to talk about that later.
Yeah. So you can see then the numbers got better like later.
Yes.
But in the beginning, it was like I could have done it, but I was just, you know, I was not training. You know.
Yeah, they just told you go and bowl quick.
Yeah, that's what we bought you for, and that's what we want you to do, and yeah.
Do you think the let's call it like the pre-Titan levels of your career? Do you think that space today looks a bit different? Do you think they maybe start prepping players a bit earlier for that? Is it a bit more professional space? Because just looking at like how if you're interested in this or not, but I think most people now are serious, almost like school rugby is in our country, and how like professional that space is.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always feel like cricket's almost at the same level as the rugby. But do you think it has improved since
I
then?
think it has. I mean, like, there's a lot of personal coaching that goes on now. There's a lot of, like, at the time there was like only a handful of cricket academies throughout the whole country, like that as a 19-year-old I could apply to. I think it was the Lions Academy, it was the Titans Academy, and like the Limpopo Academy. That was like it, you know. Now you've got academies at schools, like, so guys are like, they're getting the best training, ex-professionals from England who played county cricket, or ex-semi-professional South Africans that go into the high schools that now are coaching. Never had that when I was growing up, you know. We just had my technical drawing teacher was the head coach, you know. Like, he knew nothing about cricket, you know.
He can at least claim that he coached our state at one point.
Yeah, you know, so
If you call it coaching.
yeah. So, like, yeah, definitely these days, like with the rugby, with any of the sports, I think they start to groom the kids like a lot earlier. But I don't really have my finger on the pulse in the sense
So
of what happens, you know, like after, or even in high school. Because a lot of parents sometimes meet me and they're like, oh, my kid's he's finishing matric, what should he do? Should he go to England? Should he stay? And I'm like, well, I played for South Africa. Like, I'm going to tell you that it's the best decision he'll ever make, because it was the best decision I've ever made. But it's up to you, you know. You have to look at it and go, what's going to be, because it's also a career, you know, and a business. You want to have nice things. You want to have it's awesome to play for your country, and I was fortunate to do it for a long time. But also, at the end of the day, like, I also want to buy a nice house and a car and like look after my parents. So
Set yourself up for life after
absolutely,
it.
you know. So if they're not going to pay me well, or they're not going to do it well, I can do it somewhere else. And if you were a doctor, or you could do it somewhere else, and they're going to pay you, do it, you know.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't stop someone, but I did it here, and I'd say, fuck it, you know, that's amazing. Yeah.
So, I mean, this might be a bit of a more serious question, but I don't follow our franchise cricket as avidly as I used to when I was younger, because I just had more time naturally to watch it.
Yeah.
But what do you make of the state of our franchise cricket right now? Because it feels like we're bleeding players at a younger age. I know back then when I grew up, you could watch franchise cricket and the teams would be loaded with quality cricketers. And now it feels like it's harder for franchises to keep and attract players, and also like for the system to be healthy.
Yeah.
So I don't know how, like you said, if you have your finger on the pulse with what's happening, but what do you feel like is the situation currently?
Sure. I'm not too sure what's happening with the franchises so much anymore. So like the Cobras, the Titans, you know, the Dolphins, Warriors, those teams, I'm not really too sure how they are operating. But with the SA20 that's just been introduced, like, there's 6 teams. They're all IPL owned owners. So there's a little bit of money that's pumped in, and there are foreigners that come in, and all the local players that we got are like top players.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
And I can attest to that and say, like, we bought Tristan Stubbs for 9 million rand, I think. You know, and he didn't do anything for us, you know, in the sense of runs, but we know he'll come good at some point. But like, we're invested in this guy. He's from the Warriors. He's from that area. He's going to be a brand. He's amazing. And the guys that are around him are equally as good. Like, so I can probably say that the players in the franchises are good, but I don't know what's happening with the franchises. So.
So I guess what I meant more is, like, in your general SA one days, like the normal, I think back then it was called the Standard Bank Cup or something.
Yeah, it's now
In that sense,
I don't even know if they got a sponsor anymore. It used to be Momentum.
That's what I'm concerned about. And I followed the SA20. And I felt like that was what we need, like our domestic cricket needed. Otherwise, it was in dire straits.
Yeah. To
literally give it I would almost say a makeover again.
Absolutely.
And just inject some sort of cash pipeline towards our local domestic cricket as well. Because if there isn't any money there, the guys like Tristan Stubbs don't come through our system. And if they don't get seen in 5 years' time, they might be playing for England or whatever. So I felt like it was kind of like a very important, the SA20 was a very important happening for our domestic cricket, because I did feel a bit despondent the last 5 years about like
Yeah.
Our,
Well, I agree with you, but if you look even in Australia or something like that, like their Shield cricket is the 4-day thing.
Yes, yeah.
They take that quite seriously because they really do put Test cricket as like the
number one.
number one, you know. But if you were to go and ask them who won the, I don't know what it's called, the one-day cup that they've got there, they'd be like, I don't know, you know. So in that sense, South Africa is not far behind. Is that like that the domestic stuff is, if there's no real money involved, it doesn't really get a lot of backing. But the SA20 right now, that's pretty cool. You know,
Yeah.
like it's really made a difference.
Yeah.
it's
I think-
brilliant also to get to know the young players
Yeah.
for all of us. Yeah.
But I reckon the global T20 scene has probably just kind of taken its place. I mean, it's still needed because
Yeah.
they need to play, but
Yeah.
in terms of broadcasting and commercial
Yes.
rights and stuff like that,
Yeah.
because I mean, every country has its own
one.
Yeah.
T20 league.
Yeah,
We
we were behind for a
Yes,
while. We
we
did
were.
try once or twice. I think we had the Global League that fell through. Then there was the Mzansi League.
yeah, something
You know,
like
that kind
yeah.
of fell through, and now this is not CSA owned; it's a private thing.
Yes,
But-
which I'm also thinking now, like it's we're probably benefiting them somewhat more than it's us, but
Yeah.
there's indirect benefits that we receive, and
Yeah.
if our players get to play, that's great, and money flows,
Yeah.
it does help.
Yeah.
I think the major thing is our younger players get the opportunity to play with world-class
Yeah.
overseas players, whereas all the countries having their own leagues had the benefit of our best players going over.
Yeah.
Young Indian bowler learning from Steyn,
Yeah,
and now that's reversed to us,
Yeah.
where our young players get to learn from players from all over the world.
yeah,
Gain that type of experience. So I think that's also important that we actually started something like that.
and also just prepping these guys. You know, so like it sounds so silly, but like when you go to the SA20 games, for example, and as a spectator, you just think that it's part of the game because you go watch South Africa play. You know, so like the advertising around the field. The big screen, those kinds of things. The players don't get that in domestic cricket. Okay, so they get it now. And when they arrive at the game, honestly, it feels like you're at an international game. There's 15, 20,000 people
Yeah.
at the stadium. The lights are on, the TV's there, the advertising is flashing, and these guys now at 20 years old are going, this is what it's like. This is the
Yeah.
big league.
That's
know?
what you dream about.
This
Yeah.
exactly, and that's also a big thing because at the end of the tournament, you always ask them, "What was your highlight?" And they're like, "My highlight was playing in front of all those people with the fireworks going off and that kind of stuff." I've only seen that shit on TV. I've only seen it in IPL or in Australia at the Big Bash or something like that. Now they get to live it. So yeah, the players coming over, but also that experience. Just it feels like they're in the big league now. You know?
I think you've touched upon something that I think is quite unique, and that you might have a unique perspective of, seeing as you kind of transitioned through the phase where T20 cricket became a big thing,
Yeah.
and where it was, when it started off, it was like kind of not frowned upon, but it was obviously people knew, like, listen, this isn't Test cricket, it isn't even one day cricket,
Yeah.
and at that stage one day cricket wasn't even like.
Yeah.
People knew that Test cricket was kind of what it's all about, and
Yeah.
it was nice to see with the Ashes now that Test cricket is still alive and well. But what I actually want to get to is what was that initial transitioning phase like, and I mean, there must have been.
It's been weird.
It was weird. Like I remember having a meeting with Cricket South Africa, and we have SACA, South African Cricketers Association. They kind of like are the middlemen between the players and CSA as a business. They're kind of like the lawyers, like look after us. And when the IPL originally came on board, there was a lot of like hesitancy for the players to go because they said, if you go here, it's going to ruin cricket worldwide. They're going to be stealing players, and they had already seen it back then what the game was going to look like in 10 or 15 or 20 years time. So there was a lot of us that went, no, we're not going. Not going to this thing, no ways. And then when the guys heard how much money they could potentially make, they're like, where do I sign?
Yeah.
Like, I'm coming. So, but there was hesitancy. Like I think everyone didn't know what it was about. There was no real thing happening, and then when it started to happen, it was like, oh guys, this is real. Hey, this is going to change people's lives. And then the game started to evolve. It became extremely professional. Like the first IPL was, no one knew what was going on. Like flights were hardly booked. We'd get to the games, clothes didn't fit. There was no practices.
It's crazy
There
to
was
think
more,
about that now.
there was more sponsors wanted parties, and every single day there was a sponsor event, like because we'd get 20 sponsors and you have to go meet them and do all of the stuff. And it was just the craziest first 3 years.
Yeah.
And now when you go to the IPL, it's like, I'm a coach at the IPL now. So now it's like, we are, before the season starts off, we know exactly what the players are, what they're doing. Are they injured? Are they okay? Okay, this guy's injured. Okay, he's going to have a camp, this, that, and that. We arrive 3 weeks before the first game happens. We have a camp. We have meetings. It's insane. Like where the game has gone to from where in the beginning it was just like, a thumbs up. What are we doing? Where are we going? What's happening?
I think it also, the IPL definitely succeeded in taking cricket professionally and also on the world stage to a complete another level.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a spectacle. It's brilliant to watch every year.
Yeah, it just seems like it's better every year.
It gets better every year.
Yeah.
It really does. Our favorite will always be Test cricket, but I mean, you can't even compare the two. You won't see Virat Kohli and AB de Villiers batting together anywhere else.
No, that's the thing.
That's the other allure of it.
Yeah.
Just coming back to your career and what happened. I remember in 2004 when you made your debut against England. Actually, since then, just because of how quick you could bowl, immediately became my favourite cricketer. I know it's a cliche question, but I just realised in the short lifespan of our podcast, we haven't had anyone who's represented their country.
That's true.
In sport, so it might be a cliche question, but what did it mean to represent the Proteas? Not just the first time, but for your whole career. The feelings and just the honour.
Yeah,
so
it's a tough one because it's like a lifestyle life kind of thing that happens. It's a choice. Like, do you want to do this? And then it's like, yes, I want to do it. Okay, and then you start to live it. And I suppose. There's so many ways that I can answer this question, but I can answer it by giving you some feelings that I've had. So I remember going in 2008 to Australia, and every South African team that had gone to Australia before 2008 had got drilled, lost badly bullied. It was hectic.
We had that one memory where Fanie de Villiers won that one test where Fanie de Villiers bowled us to victory, and other than that,
that's it. Yeah, maybe once or twice we had a good game, but we generally got just smashed. And there was a group of ex-South African Proteas, we call them Proteas, but ex-South African cricketers that also come as a support group to watch us. So they were up in the stands over there, and anyway. We end up winning the series. Okay, after the second test match, we go 1 up in Perth and then 2 up in Melbourne. 3 test series, we've won. Perfect. Okay, and I remember being on the bus going back to the hotel, and Callis and Boucher are crying on the bus. Okay, because it's like I almost going to get emotional, but it was like a life-changing thing for these guys that had been there 10 years before and had been drilled, and been embarrassed and abused every time they go to the airport and stuff. You've changed these guys' lives, and the same guys that are up in the box there, all of a sudden they're super proud, of something that they couldn't achieve. So you quickly realize that was the biggest thing for me. Was I wasn't just part of a South African team or whatever. It was it changed people's lives, the course of their life and the way that they saw their life were changed from that. They were never going to go to Australia ever again and feel bullied. And no South African after us would ever go there again and feel like we're under you guys.
Shot,
Now we get to take you on, And that was way bigger than ever feeling proud to represent your country. That's a big thing, And still today, it's that's the coolest thing about playing for South Africa,
That's so cool to hear, actually. On a more personal note, for your own personal career, I think when you started out, it didn't start out as almost that fairy tale story. You had
terrible.
You had a run in the team. It was a bit not ideal.
Yeah.
Let's say.
You were very raw.
Everyone knew you had pace. But it was a bit tumultuous. It didn't necessarily go like you would have necessarily wanted it. I think just take us through that mental step almost that it took to kind of have a run in the team. You're there and thereabouts, and then all of a sudden you're not. I think that's an important thing for people nowadays to kind of to listen. It's not always even the best. They didn't necessarily start out being the best.
Setbacks.
Yeah.
No, it was tough, and also I think sometimes you get caught up in the moment. You know, you get caught up with like, oh, I'm representing my country. So everything was like, at the time, I watched a lot of rugby, and everyone was a passionate rugby player. And you'll see the South African rugby team in the spring was like, always like hitting the badge, and they're like very proud of it. And that's fine if you're going to play a game that only lasts 80 minutes. You know, you can be extremely passionate. But if you want to play test matches, you're playing five test series or 4 test series that last 5 days. It's tough to beat your chest like that for 20 days, you know.
You tried your best.
Yeah, passion and pride is only going to get you so far, you know. And I think in the beginning when I played against England, I was very passionate. I was very proud to like represent my country, but I wasn't very smart, you know. And I'd get a wicket, and I was extremely celebrating extremely well. But what you didn't see was that between those wickets, I was traveling. I was getting smacked, you know, and I was. And I needed to do I needed to do some growing up, and I needed to get better. And realized that like kissing the badge and being proud and everything like that, like I said, will only get you so far. But now you have to be professional. You have to be able to handle these guys. And I think a turning point for me came. I got called up to the South African one-day team, flew into Australia. And it was my one-day international debut for South Africa.
What was this, 5 or 6? Or?
Yeah, somewhere there. And with jet lag, went out, and there was a replacement system at the time. And I bowled 6 overs, I went for like 50 or something. I got 1 wicket, and I got replaced. And then Australia beat us that night. And after the game, I was shaking everyone's hands. And strangely enough, Ricky Ponting, he shook my hand, but he didn't look me in the eye. Every other Australian still looked me in the eye. And I took it like quite personally, you know, that he was the Australian captain, and he didn't think anything of me. Like,
yeah, he didn't even bother.
Yeah, he didn't acknowledge who I was on the day. You know, he was just like, "Thank you for the game, but it doesn't matter who you are. I'll never see you again." Wow. And I was like, "This is not going to happen," you know. And went home and did some work to go. I'll never feel like that again. You know, someone shakes my hand, they must know that they met their match today on the field. You know, even if they beat me, they must know that I was there, you know. And it was from that day forward that I was like, no one will ever look at me like that again, not look at me like that again. And that's where I went, and I did some work, played some county cricket.
I want to get into that as well now.
Yeah, I just really knuckled down, you know, and like, yeah, I don't drink now. It was one of that period where I kind of gave up that kind of stuff. Not to say that I ever drank heavily, but you know, I was just like, I was like cricket.
So determined.
I was focused on that. You know, that was gonna, and nothing was gonna stop me. Bang. Yeah. So that was kind of like the changing point there.
Did you ever chat to Ricky Ponting about that years later?
I did kind of speak to him about it because he wrote a book, and I don't know how many books he wrote, but I know in the one book, definitely the main one that he wrote, he's got a section there where it was like the 4 most difficult cricketers or 3 most difficult cricketers that he'd ever played against, and I was one of them.
Oh, really?
So yeah, so I was like, damn, yeah, you know, like
vindication to the max.
I got it, you know. So like for me, that was like a personal thing, and I told him, like, we were doing some commentary not so long ago, and I said to him, you know, like that was a really nice moment for me when I saw that, because. And he's like, dude, you know, we spoke, and he was like, you know, you were amazing, you know, whatever it was. And I was like, this is Ricky Ponting, you know. And then I turned into Putty again, you know, like who I actually am. But I was pretty proud of that. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
We touched upon the county cricket now quickly. What was that like? Because I think there's a lot of success stories about South Africans kind of being in and around the system, and then playing some county cricket, coming back, and there's a notable difference. And I mean, maybe quickly just share what role it played for you, and maybe what you learned at that time. I think it was about 2 seasons or so that you played there. I'm uncertain, I might be. Irregardless, you spent some time there. Maybe just quickly share about that.
Yeah, I played first one was with Essex. I played there, and I tell you that I knew nothing about cricket. I realized that England is very cold, and you know, and again, I think you're learning all these things about just becoming more and more professional. And I laugh about it now, like, and we can laugh about it. But very quickly, I realized I needed to go to the sports shop and get like my long johns or whatever it was to play, because trust me, like, it's not easy to bowl when you're freezing, but when you're a little bit warmer, you actually bowl. So I was just getting more and more professional. I know nothing about cricket, but life had taught me a lot of lessons, you know, and I arrived there at Essex and they gave me this apartment. First time I've had my own apartment. And they gave me the keys to a car. And they were like, but I didn't have a cell phone and I didn't have a GPS. It was a long time ago. And I had to figure it all out for myself, you know. And then I had laundry and I was like, what do I do with this, you know? So you learn, you grow up very, very, very quickly. And then the second time I went to go play county cricket, I played at Warwickshire. I had now a couple of years under the belt where I knew how to live by myself, so that was fine. Now cricket started to really like take a turn. I was in the same team as Kumar Sangakkara at Warwickshire. Heath Streak from Zimbabwe was in the team. We had a bunch of other guys, Ian Bell, Jonathan Trott, like just good. And now cricket started to become like the thing. You know, it was like, where do I bowl? How do I bowl in these conditions? When do I put my foot down on the gas and bowl 150, 145? When do I take my foot off the gas and hold? Because the game is not going anywhere. You start to learn that, you know. And because counties, there's so many counties, you're playing a lot of cricket. You're playing 5 days out of 7. That's how much you're playing there every week. Okay, so you're bowling and you're just bowling and you're bowling and you're bowling, and you start to learn a lot about your game, you know. And then you come back to South Africa and then you can apply it like that. And then the next time I went to county was more about now people, you know. It's like, okay, I know how to do my own washing. I know how to get from spot to spot. I know now how to bowl in these conditions, kind of. But now I want to integrate with people. I want to learn about like the people, you know, like where do you live? How do you do your taxes? How do you do this? You know, that kind of stuff. So it was just every time I went to play county cricket, it was just something new that I was learning all the time. And yeah, by the end, I was still learning, but like I just felt like I was getting better and better as a human. But then my sport was also going. My chosen sport was also going on the up, you know.
Who suggested going to county cricket the first time after your initial like debut for the Proteas and that first spell?
Yeah.
Was it the Protea management? Was it someone like a mentor?
No.
I mean, Graham Smith was already captain then.
Yeah, I got dropped from the team after that England series. I didn't play particularly well, which was fine. And then South Africa had a series in the West Indies in the Caribbean. So it's like over our winter, and the Caribbean's pretty warm. And that's the same time that the county was. So I was now not with the South African team. So and we just played against England. So Essex were like, "Oh, don't you want to come and play for us?" So that was my first thing. And then I think the following year was Warwickshire, and then it just, you know. Yeah. But now it's impossible. Like most cricketers can't get a county gig, South African cricketers, because there's like only space for one overseas pro.
But they changed that now.
Yeah, all the rules have kind of changed. I'm not too sure what they are anymore. So it really, back then it was a lot easier. Now it's yes, if you can get a county gig, like Dean Elgers was our test captain. I can message him right now and ask him when the last time he played cricket. He hasn't played cricket in months. You know, he can't get a county gig. He's not getting into any of the big 2020 tournaments around the world. And South Africa plays 4 test matches a year, you know.
That's crazy.
And then that's something we'll touch upon later.
Yeah,
as well.
And then when he's playing for the Titans, you know, it's the same time South Africa's playing, so his first class games also gets cut down by half, you know, to play those 3 test matches. So the guy plays 9 games a year right now.
Yeah, I think crazy. The county teams might have been a bit scarred by all the South Africans that came back to haunt them on international level. Decided to cut down on that. What I'm hearing from what you just described is basically that you had a lot of growing up to do as a cricketer, and it played a vital part in your career.
Yeah.
Was there a mentor in the South African space that you would say played a big role in your kind of development cycle?
Yeah.
It's always just interesting to hear these stories.
Yeah. So Graham Smith was probably the biggest. Like, and the funny thing is, he's only a couple of years older than me, but in stature, he's just an amazing human. He's a huge human, you know, and he really
more ways than one.
Yes, and he demands your attention. You know, like if he had to walk into a busy place and you wouldn't even know, you would still turn, and he's got a real presence about him, you know. And he kind of took a lot of us under his wing, and really like helped shape us who we are today. And then Mark Bouch and Callis were really good friends of mine too, and it was important for me to be good friends with Bouch, because as a fast bowler you want to have a good relationship with your wicketkeeper, because you're kind of playing catch. You know, the two of you're operating together. So you'll see today, I'm really good friends with Quentin de Kock. You know, my keeper is my keeper. You know, we know each other, and that's how we do it. So Bouch was also heavily important to me, and then they introduced me to my agent Dave Rundle, who used to play for South Africa back in the day. He played for Western Province, and you know, he was also Callis's agent, or is Callis's agent. And like, you know, the 4 or 5 of us or whatever created like this little like force that we just looked after each other through the years, you know, and helped each other grow from anything that was off the field to cricket on the field, you know. So, you know, those guys really, but everyone, you know, at some point played their role. Even Hash.
This man.
Yeah. We sat next to each other in every change room around the world. Hash sat right next to me and Mornay. Like, he would always sit between me and Mornay. And you call him right now, you can ask him everywhere in the world. India, Cape Town, you name it. Hash was always between Mornay and myself. You know, he knew who to look after him.
I guess flipping the question to the other side, when you got to the later stages of your career and the Callises and Bouches had left and the Smiths, were there any younger guys you kind of stepped in and played that role for, would you say? Or
I tried, I suppose. I think that it's kind of funny.
like Quinny, for instance.
Yeah.
Or, I mean,
So Quinny, Marco Jansen, I think we're really good. We're good mates now. KG, but KG is so good. You know, there wasn't much.
wasn't needed.
It wasn't needed.
No meter required.
It certainly wasn't needed. But for me, it was like when I broke my shoulder and I came back. It took me a year to get back into the team. I'd been in the South African team at that point for 10 years already, and it immediately felt different. You know, when I walked into the dressing room, everything felt different. You know, the music was being played differently. You know, the lingo that the team was talking was different. You know, the awareness on certain things had changed, and I quickly realized that this is not my dressing room anymore. You know, I was very familiar with a particular dressing room, and this is one that I'm very unfamiliar with. And change is good. Change can be good, but change can also be bad. You know, so I felt that my role when I came back into the team was less to kind of like guide players, but guide the team to make sure that the team was going in the direction that the team was going in when I was first joined it and worked for 10 years. And let's make sure that we stay on that path as opposed to breaking away. Let's keep our goal on that. So that became a thing for me, was just making sure that the team was still heading in the same direction. Because, you know, I'm going to retire, but in 15, 20 years from now, I still want to walk into that dressing room. And I'd love for the guys there to recognize me or anybody else that plays now the same way we recognize guys from like, you know, 1990 or 92 or 95 or whoever they are. They would walk in and be like, yeah, this is Richard Snell or this is Pat Simcox or whoever it was, you know. We want to keep that it's because the guys all in the chain, you know, it's just not your turn right now, it's somebody else's turn. So I felt like that was the important thing when I went back into the team. It wasn't like, okay, I'm going to get Lungi and I'm going to guide him. Or I'm going to get KG. I'm going to guide him. Like the team does this, the team will look after that guy. You know.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think getting properly stuck into the cricket part of it now. You were part of arguably one of the greatest Test cricket sides, not that this country has ever seen, but that the world has ever seen.
Yeah.
Which kind of intertwined with the space where you got back into the team, and obviously then made you were a regular and you were there pretty much all the time. That experience and that dressing room must have been ridiculous. I mean, being surrounded with these individuals and also the confidence that you must have had going into a match at that time. It must have been bit of an unreal feeling that you can't be beaten.
Yeah.
I mean, looking right and looking left, and you're seeing all these players. I mean,
So you got back in 07, end of 06.
Yeah, somewhere there.
And then I
just
mean,
never left.
never left. And I mean, I guess the impressive part is the amount of time our test side sustained that success. It wasn't just a 3-year cycle. It was like 7, 8, 9 years of 10 years of properly dominating.
Yeah, we went 10 years of away tours, not losing an away tour. 10 years.
Has any test side ever done that?
I think the West Indies team back in the
80s
day
or 70s
did something like, you know, but we went 10 years. And at the time, also in that period, I think recently maybe Australia or India were, But at the time, we were also the number one test team, number one ODI team, and number one T20 team for a short period. But it doesn't matter. That's what we were. But biggest thing is even during that entire period, I never won a World Cup. That's a big thing.
We'll get to that.
But it says
we just won't get
to the sad part.
But never talk about that. But that team was serious. Like that team was, and the simple goal was that we try and win every game, like through the way that we play our cricket, but we do not lose a game. That was like a motto that we had. We do not lose.
Meaning?
Well, we don't lose test matches. So we draw a test match, but we do not lose test matches. And that's where you see guys like Faf blocking out a day in Adelaide. AB blocking out. So AB it's crazy. The guy can block. He can face 250 balls and score 5 runs. And then he can face 10 balls and score 60, in a T20. And I think that was team driven, it was team driven, and that's what I was talking about.
Playing for your mates.
Yes, and that's kind of what I was talking about I was like, when I went back into the team, I was like, okay, I'm going to get the team in that direction. Because if the team's doing that, you're going to see those kind of performances come from great players like Faf and Hash and AB blocking out an entire day, because the team said we don't lose,
Graham walking down with a broken hand.
Exactly, we do not lose, guys. So for 10 years we might lose a draw, like a losing draw, we were the worst team, but we just don't lose. And I don't know what their motto is now, but that's what it was like for 10 years.
And at that stage, thinking of just the bowling attack, I mean, it was Polly and Mackay coming towards the end of their career. When do you remember a specific moment where it felt like you're now the leader of the South African bowling attack? Because since that moment, pretty much for a decade, you were the leader and the spirit of our attack. Do you remember a specific series or test match? Or
I don't ever feel like I remember me taking the reins as being like the number one, but I remember that like power being handed to me by Graham when we went to Pakistan. We went to Pakistan, and I think they selected me ahead of Polly in Pakistan, and they wanted to. Mickey Arthur was the coach, and they wanted to see a different style of play. They were like, we want pace. That's what we want. This is how we're going to win it. And it was a big call for them to drop somebody like Polly. And they played me, and we won that test. I got 5 in that test match. I think it was in Karachi or Lahore. I can't remember, one of the two. And then we went to the next one, and we drew that one. We won in Pakistan.
I think it was 08, right?
Yeah, it was somewhere there. No, maybe even 07, but something like that. And it was like round about there, where that's when I felt like the power kind of changed. Now Graham had identified me as his guy. Like he was like, Dale's my guy. So whenever there was a trouble situation, needed a breakthrough, he gave me the ball.
And you loved it.
And I loved that. And then whenever we got a wicket, like Paul Harris would bowl 15 overs, like toiling,
The legend himself.
And then he would somehow get a wicket. And when the new batter would walk in, Graham would be like, Harrow, take a breather, Dale's going to bowl.
After his 20 over spell.
Exactly.
And he just thought he's going to rip through now.
And just when he thought, okay, I can bowl with the new batter and maybe get 1 or 2. No, Dale gets the ball. And then I go bang, bang, and I take 2 wickets, And then the partnership comes, and then Harrow gets given the ball again, So, but the point is that at that time, Graham had recognized me as his guy. And it went like that for a very, very, very long time until Graham kind of finished. Then I think AB kind of took over, and then it was me, but it was also Vernon, it was also Mornay. And it was like, who's the guy,
They didn't really matter.
There were so many guys.
And then I got injured, and then Faf came in, and then I was coming back into the team, and then it was KG. KG's the guy, And now you don't get the ball as often as you would want to in that. So, but that's why I say Graham played such a major part in my role, because
he backed you.
He backed me. Like I wouldn't have gotten the amount of wickets that I did if it wasn't for him. It could have been Mornay. It could have been somebody else. I still had to deliver, but I still had to get given the ball during those periods, and he was the guy that made those decisions.
During that time, this is an unfair question, and there will probably be so many answers because there were so many games, but test matches that just stood out to you as being really special on a personal level and on a team level.
We've got a list of your achievements and stuff here. So we know some of the best ones, but I mean, for you personally, I remember my favourite Steyn spell. But we want to hear from you.
No, which one? Tell me. I want to hear.
I think the MCG one in 2008.
Yeah, so that's probably one.
That because I mean, as a South African, waking up 1:30 in the morning every day, and even though we got pumped there in 05, I think, which is the first series I remember there, you still woke up every morning to watch that.
Yeah.
So that spell, just because of the personal sacrifices I had to make, and then you stitching that. How much it was 5 in the
5 in the first 76, and then a 5 in the second.
Yes.
So that would probably go down as my best game that I ever played.
One of the best games anyone's
all-round kind of performance, you know. But I don't know. There were so many good ones. Graham's innings at Edgbaston when we won the series. I had a broken thumb. Mickey wanted me to play. I remember there being big arguments between Mickey and our physio Shane Jabbar, because Shane was like, he can't play. He's got a cast on his hand.
What if he has to catch something?
Yeah, and Mickey was adamant. He was like, he's playing. And Graham, I can remember Graham coming into the room and saying, like, Graham was such an amazing person. He came in and he was just like, he calmed the whole situation down. He's like, Dale doesn't have to play. We'll win a different way. And Andre Nel came into the team. Mornay bowled really well, and Graham batted like a legend. And he scored 100 or 150 or something like that on a dodgy deck. And we won that. And that game was like, I was right there, you know. I was like, I wanted to play. I had a broken hand, but we won, you know. And it was like, again, a huge thing. And then in India,
Nagpur.
Nagpur. But the first game, I remember the first game being even more like memorable because Sehwag made 300 in a day.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, and it was the hottest, most difficult conditions that I've ever played in. It was that and Sri Lanka, most difficult conditions I've ever played in. And we drew that one. The Sri Lanka one we lost, but it's a more memorable game because Sangha and Mahela put on a world record. They made like
600 partnership. Yeah, I remember that.
And that's also cool. Like I love that, you know. Like
how is that cool if you have to field for 3 days and you can't get the oaks out?
No, it's
and
not.
It's hot.
Yeah, but it's awesome to go back in because I was like, I was there. I did that, you know. And it was horrible, and I've had some other amazing games and. You know, here's the funny thing is that we got bowled out for 180 or something, maybe 200. And that afternoon, Sri Lanka come into bat. I got Jayasuriya out LBW. I may have even got a second wicket. Patu maybe, I can't remember. But Sangha came in, and Sangha was batting. Now he's batting with Mahela. And he cuts one straight to point. Jock Rudolph is at point off me. Dropped catch. Okay. Next ball, I'm this young angry man. I run in, I bowl. I try and bowl the speed of light. He drags on, bowled, no ball. And then they made 600 whatever.
No.
So you can understand why, for me, it's quite a funny one too, you know, because...
Irony.
Yeah, it's just, you know, that whole game, and we lost badly, but it was such a learning and fun experience, you know, and Mahela was approaching 400. And our team talk eventually got to a point was like, guys, this guy cannot break Brian Lara's record.
Is that the motivation now?
What are we going to do to get this guy out? It was like, we will rugby tackle him if we have to. There's no ways he's breaking this world record. And I remember Andre Nel at like T saying, I've got him. I get him. Geef him die ball. He ran in.
Action.
But he ran in. He was going to bowl him a bouncer. Mahela went back to pull him and it stayed like ankle high and he got bowled for 370 or something like that. Something ridiculous.
Which probably cued the roughest celebration for a weekend ever. Because second only to you is probably Andre Nel celebrations.
Even
taking a weekend.
Even though I have never met the man, what you just described seemed like the most Andre Nel comment ever.
He was a legend, and like there's not a bad. I can tell you for free that there's not one bad guy that I've ever been in the dressing room with from a South African point of view. Maybe some strange cats, yes. You know, everyone's like who they are, and you gotta respect that. Probably, but they are all absolute legends, you know, in their own way. It was pretty cool.
In tough times like that, how do you? Obviously, luckily we're in a strong dressing room with characters, not a flaky dressing room.
Yeah.
How do you, like, I would say, still enjoy your job and the team stick together? Because Test cricket is a really hard thing to do. It's 5 days, you're toiling. The batsmen aren't necessarily out there to give you chances as a bowler.
No.
and as a batsman, vice versa. So how did you guys keep positive in times like that and be like, we'll go again the next test?
Yeah.
Because I remember that team, even after losing a test, we never like, we always bounced back.
Yeah.
Never just gave in a series and crumbled.
Yeah. Like that series we lost in Sri Lanka, and then the next series that we played, we won. You know? So it was like there was a little bit of motivation to go back and do well. You know.
Was that 14 you won, right?
Yeah. And then there's also that self-motivation, you know. So when we went back in 14, we played in goal. I got 9 wickets.
9 for 99.
Yeah. And then the next test match, we blocked out for a draw in the most crazy spinning conditions you've ever seen.
Yes, yeah.
And then you realise that that's why the big loss in the previous one means so much more, you know.
Yeah,
like,
it wouldn't be this sweet now.
Yeah. So that's why they're cool. Yeah, but just a good dressing room all round, and always having good management. I don't think we've ever had a guy that was like not a rad guy to be part of our management group, you know, because the management is the guys that you kind of are the backroom staff. They're always doing all the work. They're keeping everyone motivated, keeping everyone happy, and we've always managed to have good squad of guys, you know, and women that have been part of the teams, you know.
Yeah. So in terms of tour memories. And firstly, what was your guys' favourite country to tour? Australia, because as a group, 08, 12, 16, we won 3 in a row.
Yeah.
Just growing up, I would never imagine a Proteas test team going over and winning 3 series in a row in Australia.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Or is there other countries like Caribbean maybe?
Yeah.
What was your favourite?
My favourite was Caribbean. Straight up, every hotel you stay at is on the beach.
Food must be amazing.
Food's amazing. You're 5 minutes away from the hotel. The weather's good all the time. It does get hot and humid, but the weather's good, you know. And you normally, because it's so far away, we never really go there for a short tour. You know?
Yeah.
We go there for a test tour plus an ODIs, and then maybe throw 1 or 2 T20s in there. And if you're lucky enough to make all 3 teams, you are there for a solid 2 months. Eh?
Not bad.
Not bad to be in the Caribbean for 2 months. It's epic.
Yeah.
Whereas like Sydney, Melbourne, London, Christchurch, Auckland, they're all the same, you know, like Johannesburg, Cape Town. Like I love Cape Town, but they like when you're playing cricket, it's the same thing. You go from the nice hotel to the ground, and maybe you can do something in between. But the Caribbean is like cool, you know, you're on the beach,
You feel unleashed.
yeah, you can. You get back after a day's play. It's you know, you've had a shit day on the field or whatever it is. You go and you just lie there in the ocean. You know,
No, that's not bad.
It's really, really nice. Everything feels laid back, relaxed, and it's just a great way to
You're not doing that in
play.
London.
No, you're not. You can't. No chance.
Another, I would guess, almost unfair question. I mean, being part of that team, were there other particular individual performances that you witnessed in certain times where you just feel like this is something that I will probably never see again? I mean, we brought it up on our
format.
Yeah, on our friend group. They came up on social media. I saw a notification that came up for that game we played. Was in 2010 against England, where Callis and Amla scored those ridiculous amounts of runs, and we just. I just said at the time, surely this must be one of the most dominant cricket performances against another big team, where the other team didn't necessarily play badly and got bowled out for like 150 or whatever. Like they scored decent runs, and then they just got absolutely annihilated. I mean,
so basically, what I think what we want to know is like the craziest individual performances you saw that wasn't you. Because, I mean,
no, there was a lot, like off the bat, I know it's so silly, but we played against Bangladesh and Graham Smith and Neil McKenzie. We won the toss, went out to bat, and we never lost a wicket the whole day.
I remember this.
So that was amazing. So and that was cool to watch because Hash was at 3 and Callis was at 4, and they were padded the whole day. And Callis is the most chill person in the world. He sat there staring at a wall the whole time, and Mornay would eventually go to him and he's like, "Jock, are you okay? What are you looking at?" You know, he was just in the zone waiting for his turn to go and bat. You know,
probably very in the zone because when he saw them getting those runs, he was thinking,
stand.
AB was remarkable anytime he batted. Even if he only scored 30 runs, it was pretty amazing to watch. I watched him score the 100, the fastest 100.
Did you play in that game?
Yeah.
That must have been...
No, he was ridiculous. And he wasn't going to bat. He was captain. He wanted to send in Dave Miller because they had Suleiman Ben, who was the left-arm spinner. And he said Dave Miller can take the left-arm spinner down. And Russell Domingo said to him, you go, you're our best batter. You must go and bat right now. And last second, he pushed him. And in the dressing room, there's these stairs. And I remember him trying to run down the stairs. And he tripped from the top stair. And it's like carpet, and like a cat, he landed at the bottom, almost Bolle McKissied up, and he was out. And when I looked again, he was in the middle of the pitch, and first ball he hit for 4.
Yeah, that's the part they don't show in the highlight.
Yeah, exactly. And there was that. So those things were amazing. In Sydney, he scored 100 again, same team. Oh, there was some ridiculous things. Mornay took 6 in New Zealand. That was crazy because he just all of a sudden found this Yorker and just started bowling Yorkers, and the Kiwis, they didn't see it coming. And Vernon cleaning up Australia, was also something.
Wait, which time? The one on debut or
that was
41 all out. They were 23 for 9.
Yeah, I think watching you two bowl in tandem is probably my favourite South African partnership.
Yeah,
because if the one didn't clean up the lineup, the one, it felt like the one kept it so tight and the other one cleaned up the lineup and vice versa, and you guys just operated.
No, and just when people thought, this is fluke, this guy can't do it again. New Zealand toured us 2 months later, and same venue got bowled out for 50 or something, or 40 again, first innings.
The Aussies must have been sick of the sight. If you imagine if you're losing 3 back-to-back series in your home track, you're thinking it can't get worse than this, and you actually come here. And that was wild.
Yeah, those are some things. Hash scoring 300 at the Oval was amazing because I was night watchman 2 days in a row, and and anytime Hash batted was just incredible to watch, and Graham batted. There was sometimes that it was just the crowd is so. I'm sitting here and I'm just thinking about it. You must excuse me when my mind starts to drift. But Edgbaston is. I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's insane. Okay, and when Andrew Flintoff was running into bowl, you are in a dungeon. The dressing room is underground, and the TV has got a 3 or 4 second delay. Okay, so you can hear. It's this loud celebration, and then the batter stands up and he's already getting ready, and you haven't even seen it on the TV yet, and then out he walks, and then next thing it comes up on the TV what's actually happened, but you can hear the crowd
so you can't actually see the game in the dressing room at Edgbaston?
No, not that dressing room at the time. It's changed now. Same thing in Auckland when we played that 2015 World Cup, when we were batting, I was getting ready to bat, so I wasn't outside, I was in, and you could just. It was insane. It was intense. Loudest I've ever heard a stadium,
And it's completely different to playing here.
Eden Park, obviously.
No, this is love playing in South Africa, but we are just gentle, That place is those places are insane,
Like England and New Zealand.
Insane. When Flintoff was running into bowl, it was the scariest thing you've ever. Every 6 balls was an event, It wasn't an over. Every ball was an event, it was loud from the start to even if the batter left it. It was intense. It was
30,000 pissed Englishmen shouting their
absolutely
guts out,
intense. That's why at the end of a test match you feel worked, you physically you're done, but mentally you are just what just happened?
And I mean that 76 you've scored at Melbourne, we'd be stupid not to ask about your greatest batting performance.
Before you start, I want to share a personal story of mine regarding that. I remember, because it's always over the December holidays, and then you were family and everything, and obviously it's so early in the morning. I was in bed, and the previous day didn't go great. We went
160 for 7.
We were in trouble.
It was we were in trouble, and my grandpa at the time was now not with us anymore. He was the religious cricket watcher. He would, regardless if we were 50 for 9, he would probably still get up at 2 in the morning and watch the game. And obviously he woke up as he normally does. And at one point during the partnership in JP, he got up now and he came down and said, no, you need to wake up now. It was at 5 or something in the morning. He was laughing so much. I will never forget this until my dying day. it was it was just after. I think you went for a big shot and you hit the ball. It went side. I think it was Hassie under it. And my grandfather, he couldn't stop laughing, just telling me about you hit the ball side, and Hassie couldn't even catch it. At that point, he told me, "Now you need to come down. You need to come watch some cricket." Now. I was like, "Yes, I will come down and watch the cricket." That memory will always stay with me. But I mean,
it's cool,
that was and the stories that you guys create for other people is so special. I know that. But I mean that game was ridiculous.
That's the thing I think I love most about, like, somebody asked me the other day, they're like, doesn't it get annoying, like, when people come and, like, greet you or whatever it is? And I said, no, the best thing for me is that at some point in time, whether it was me or the team that I was in, it's made a difference in someone's life, So one weekend, so that's amazing for me, because that's a story that you'll remember with your grandfather forever. And a random person who you've never met before, like, managed to create that for you. And I like that. I've been in many good stories for people. They've broken up with their girlfriend on the Friday, the Proteas play a game on the Sunday, and Monday they go back to work and they feel good about their lives because I took 5, or AB scored 100 or whatever it is. Like that's cool. I like that.
I mean, I guess that's one of the reasons we also do this. Is
yeah.
Nice to meet the people who gave us that stories.
Yeah.
But I mean, back to that 76. How was the feeling of batting and realizing you might be on for a 50 year, you might be on for a 100 year?
Yeah.
And what did JP Dumini tell you when you got to the wicket? I mean, what was it like?
We spoke, because we were in big trouble when we came out to bat, and Harrow the night before had taken a pounding. Like Johnson and Siddle were bouncing him and hitting him, and Brett Lee had broken his foot, but he was bowling, and he was hitting Harrow. And then Harrow came in and he was black and blue, and he's like, he's like, this is crap. But if one of the spinners comes on, I'm taking him down. So Graham was like, I think you need to, you put your foot down at some point. And Horrocks came on, and Harrow kind of swung it and took them on and scored some runs. I think he scored 35 or something like that.
Wagged.
And then Mornay went out and he played quite aggressively. Yeah. And then when I went out, JP was like, okay, I've been batting with these guys, and all we're doing is we ball by ball. Every ball, if I was at the non-striker or JP was at the non-striker, we'd kind of walk down and just say, next ball, just the next ball, just focus on that one. And when we realized that again, we had batted for 400 balls or whatever it was, and we made a 180 run partnership, 189 or whatever it was, something stupid like that.
It was insane.
Yeah, but when you're not thinking about the bigger picture, it's kind of like running the comrades. You're just the next step, the next step, and then when you realize it again, you're at the finish line, and that's exactly what it was like.
Did you, for one moment, doing that innings, ever think
definitely
I'm going to get on?
Absolutely,
I'm going to get on.
Yes,
that Limpopo Academy top order batsman came out there.
This is years later. It's all coming to fruition. Getting on at the MCG.
Yeah. Listen, I've told you many a story about team first and why we pushed the team. That day, the team cost me 100. I can promise you, because Andrew Simons was bowling and he was lobbing it up, and he had mid off and mid on up. Because Ricky Ponting wanted me to try and play the big shot, and I did, and it was off Horrocks when that happened, when Hassie missed that catch, okay, and that's exactly what he wanted me to do. So he brought Simons on, and he said, lob it up, and this guy will eventually run down and smack one straight up. And JP said, this is what he's going to do, just block him. And I was like, dude, I'm on 76. That's 4 hits away.
Seeing it like a balloon.
In this over, I can do it. And he's like, stick to the... So I blocked, and I blocked some more. And that cost me 100. I'm telling you right now. But we won, and I won't change it, and it's fine, But
that was a remarkable series because we chased down a world record, right?
Yeah, Perth.
We were 160 odd for 7 or 8, and we fought back again and won that test. And then in Sydney, we almost got the draw with Graham batting
which was a victory in its own. Almost
that Sydney test will always piss me off a little bit. Sorry, because. What happened was that we won the series, and I think a lot of us then just took our foot off the gas, and for the first 3 days we just did not rock up to that test match, We knew we were playing a test match, but I felt like everything was we were playing as though we had all the freedom in the world. If they hit a boundary or whatever, it was it's fine, we've won the series,
Hungover as well.
Yeah, not really. But, yeah,
kidding.
but no, we were. You know, we had a winning hangover. Is what we had.
It's kind of like
Yeah, and
happy.
not so much the alcohol, just a happy hangover, right? And what happened with that was that we lost that game. We almost drew it. You know,
Yeah.
Graham coming out, myself and Mackay had a good. We blocked it out at the end. We managed to almost take it there. And then what happened is that we lost that test match. And when Australia came to South Africa, they won the first 2 test matches
I remember.
and won the series here.
Mm.
And that was annoying for us because we were like, guys, that we don't play our cricket like that. We took our foot off the pedal. You know, we should have beaten them or drawn with them in Sydney. And then when they got here, we should have beaten them again, you know. And instead, we were just happy that we won in Australia, you know. And then we fixed it after that. We're like, we're not doing that again, you know.
But it was such a big moment. I mean, the next step would always probably have been to it's like doing that for the first time. It's kind of like you're in dreamland for a year.
Yeah, it's exactly.
And then you have to decide, are we going to be a great side or side that beat them once?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And then complacency gets thrown out the door and you like you said, put your foot on the pedal. And then we absolutely dominated teams all over the world. Yeah. I mean, just drawing a series in India it's so incredible just to achieve that.
Yeah, it's massive.
I mean, that is like going there with starting to bat in the 4th innings and Ashwin's opening the bowling and it's spinning half meters and floating off cracks just to draw a series, just to win a test match in India is incredible. So you have to want to also get into the World Cups a bit, but before we do that, I think it's also something I would like to know is toughest opponents and mates you made outside of the South African dressing room in cricket.
Sure. All of them pretty good friends with most of them actually. Who have I spent some time with though? Kumar Sangakkara, I seem to always play in the same teams as him, so we just became really good friends, and like we've been friends for years now, and we see each other around the world, which is amazing.
Yeah, also an all-time great.
Yeah, and that's cool. You know, it's like we like. And here's another one, Jonty Rhodes. You know, like he was my hero growing up. You know, and now we speak to each other every single day, like every day. He's like, "What's happening? How's the surf? What are we doing? We're going for a run. Are we doing this or whatever it is?" And I'm like, "This is Jonty Rhodes." You know,
that's quite cool.
Yeah, but other teams around the world, because we don't see them as often. But a lot of guys. Strangely enough, David Warner and myself kind of close, you know. Not a lot of people like him, but I've always enjoyed Bull a little bit.
Fast bowler streak coming through there.
Yeah, he's good. Moses Enriquez, good friend. What else? Johnny Bairstow's a good friend. There's a lot of guys, you know. We're all good friends. Yeah, but I'm good friends with a lot of the South African guys too. Currently, like Marco and Quinny. Are the 2 guys we go fishing a lot and we go on like fishing trips. So
nice.
Yeah. The guys are all cool.
In terms of opponents, like, was there ever? I mean, as a bowler bowling to a batsman like that, you've got that bunny theme that always that they have, but the inverse not necessarily always gets spoken about as much. Was there someone that you did not like bowling to?
Andrew Strauss.
Just couldn't get his number.
Yeah, I originally started my test series against England, and he was the opening batter with Josgothic, and I couldn't get him out back then, and I was no good back then anyway, so didn't deserve to get him out probably. And then the series that followed, Mornay actually had the wool over him a little bit, so I never got a lot of opportunities to bowl to him. Mornay just seemed to clean him up, and Vernon. And that really annoyed me. I was very happy that we were getting him out, but it was annoying me because there was this like internal like fight that I was having with myself that I needed to get this guy out, to prove to myself that I was good enough. He's opening batter, and I got him out 2 or 3 times. And the first time I got him out was the most random way ever. It was the first ball of the test at the Wanderers, bowled a leg stump half volley, and he flicked it as hard as he could, and Hash was under the helmet, and had a diving one-handed catch. First ball of the test match, and that was the first way I got Strauss out. And I was like, of all the ways that I wanted to get him out, he's not like that.
You wanted out thinking,
exactly, So I was like, that does not count, I've got him, but it does not count. So he was tough. And that was more a mental thing. But then other players like Chris Gale was tough to bowl to because he scored so quickly. Saywag was tough to bowl to because he scored so quickly, but I also got him out a lot. Kevin Peterson was really difficult. You know, when he decided to bat like quickly, he was on. You know, and at Leeds, we took the second new ball. I was bowling first over with the second new ball, and I ran it, and then he double stepped me and hit me for 6 back over my head. So like second ball with the second new ball, double charged me, hit me back over my head for 6. You know, like so when he wanted to go, he wanted to go. You know, and so those guys are tough to stop because Graham would often come and say, or your captain will come and say, listen, I want you to bowl 3 or 4 overs here, max speed, and I want you to like break it open here. I need a wicket. And after 2 overs, he'll say, listen, take a breather. You know, because this guy's taken me for 25 and 2 overs, and then you go, yes, you know, that's tough to come back from. You know? So it didn't happen over an extended period of time, but for that short period, it was always tough. Those guys were tough. You know,
and some of the other greats like Tendulkar, you spoke about Sangakkara.
Sangakkara, like
Kohli, Smith.
Yeah, those guys, more modern guys. Didn't play a lot against Smith, but I got him out a bunch. Sachin was just like he was like bowling to a brick wall. You know, he was so like smart, and he knew exactly what you were going to do. I found it difficult to get him out. Like he had all of his bases covered, but I didn't find it difficult to bowl to him. You know, I could bowl to the guy all day. I just wouldn't probably not get him out. You know. And I did get him out a bunch. So I was quite lucky there. But also when he had ways of scoring, and he's quite a short guy, so he scored in unique, weird places, you know, and that's the thing. You always, as a bowler,
this is your length.
Yeah, he does. You know, you're trying to hit the top or off stump, so your length is always in the same place. Like I put this glass down, and I can hit this glass; it will hit the top or off stump. But if I'm bowling to Sachin, who's you know 5'5" or whatever, and then I'm bowling to Chris Gale, they're going to play the same shot. They're going to hit it in different areas. So your fielder then needs to move. But Sachin had a way of, you know, he was scoring in very unique, different areas. So you would also bleed runs to him, you know. Just when you think, just when you think I've got him under wraps, he would have 40 before you know it, you know, like that. So he was tough. And then there was a period that Michael Clark was batting well, like and he was tough to bowl to. He was standing there showing you all 3 stumps, and you're like, oh, I'm going to knock out, you know,
all three.
I'm going to bowl it middle here, and it's in the shape away, and you know, if he plays and misses, I'm going to hit off, and he just never missed. You know, he went like 3 years where he just never missed the ball.
Yeah, he had that good period where it was insane.
Purple patch, but a very large purple patch.
Yeah.
Was there anyone in particular you really enjoyed bowling to?
I mean, there was this. Everyone talks about Hafiz. You know, there was this thing where I got him out like 16 times or something silly.
Like
you know, you know. And the problem was that because South Africa, we were going through a patch where we couldn't get games against the big nations like England and Australia. We still are.
That's crazy.
So Pakistan was the one team that was like, we'll come to you and you can come to us in Dubai. So we did we were touring Dubai twice a year. They were coming here. I mean, it was inevitable that you're going to get this guy out if you're playing against him, you know.
Week in, week out.
Exactly,
almost,
you know, so... And I'm opening the bowling, he's kind of opening the batting, it's going to happen. So that became a fun, kind of thing, you know. And then I caught on with what everybody else was talking about, so I ran with that a little bit.
Of course.
But no, there wasn't one particular player that I was like, every time I played against him, I was excited about.
Can't wait to bowl this.
No. I sometimes enjoy playing against other South Africans, not AB, so that straight out. But I enjoyed playing against other South Africans because I'd joke with them before we would go. So I'd play against Quinny and I'd tell him, listen, I'm going to get you out today. And he's like, no, you're not. And I'm telling him, I'm going to get you out. You're going to get caught cover today. And then he goes and hits it straight to cover, you know, like randomly. And then he'll never live it down, you know, as long as we live. So things like that were also fun sometimes. Yeah.
A fast bowler's question, excluding yourself, would you rate as the greatest fast bowler of all time? I don't know.
Oh, sure. And that's a tough one.
Let's
of
exclude.
All time.
Yeah, let's exclude let's say from 90s onwards.
Sure.
And if you wanted to make it interesting, maybe saying who would you want to bowl in tandem with you? That's not a South. Well, you could say a South African, but didn't play with you at the time.
Like straight away, Alan Donald. Like I would have loved to bowl with him. because
A bowler.
Lightning was so like he was our bowling coach and he was so good at like getting like me worked up and good to go. Like talk about like you did well and you bowled and you got wickets and everything like that. I'm like, look at the guy there at fine leg who's hiding in the shadow there, Mr. Alan Donald. And every time I go to fine leg, he's just saying something to me that's just revving me up, you know. And I'm like, it's his wicket, you know, because if he wasn't there doing that, probably wouldn't have put in that kind of performance, you know. So I would have loved to bowl with him. I was so lucky that I got to bowl with Polly and Micaiah too. Micaiah had a presence about him, hey, like he was full of energy. I don't think he was the most skilled bowler in the world, but he was persistent and he was quick, you know, and he was accurate. He did his job, but he wasn't super skilled. Whereas Polly was a bit of like he was an operator, you know, he'd work you out, you know. He was very clever. So I like that we had two different guys there. And although he wasn't a bowler, Darryl Cullen was really good at as a captain for me and telling me what to do and how to bowl and how to get wickets. I learned how to get wickets through fear with Darryl, and that like served me well in my international career, you know. So although he wasn't a bowler, like he was really good at that in the initial early stages.
And from other countries, a guy like Glenn McGraw.
Yeah, Glenn was good. I never really played against him a lot.
Yeah.
I mean,
Growing up, you must have watched him.
Watched him.
Yeah.
Probably would have enjoyed bowling with him, but like more Bretley, I think.
Bretley,
Yeah.
Royal typer.
Binger was just, I loved Binger. You know,
was quick.
oh, he was so fast. 2003, that World Cup here in South Africa, he was ridiculous. So yeah, then like that guy. Shai was good. Ambrose, yeah, some of the West Indians, like probably Michael Holding, you know, just the way he runs in and just like the Whispering Death, just beautiful, you know, so poetic. You can't even hear his feet like when he's running in, and then like gas, like real gas.
Also great, our favourite commentator probably of all
Oh,
time.
man,
Love listening to that.
He's not, almost wanted to call him a national treasure, but he's just a treasure. You didn't forget.
Yeah, so obviously we spoke a bit about the glory days. Number one team in all formats. Spoke about our fond memories of watching you bowl and your colleagues bowl and bat. The only thing that eluded you guys, and you touched upon it earlier, is the World Cup glory. And I'm right in saying you played two. Were you at 07 as well?
I was in 2011 and 2015.
And 19 you were going, but you got injured.
Yeah, I went and then I was injured and I came back.
Yeah.
Yeah, pulled out.
So 11 was in England and 15 was in New Zealand, Australia. 11 was in India. Yes. Yeah. And 15 Australia, New Zealand.
Yeah.
Just the respective World Cups, starting with 2000. Let's start overall. What do you think? Why did we never?
Sure.
Well, that's a loaded question, but
because it's not only you guys.
If you had to pinpoint, what do you think was missing? And you can say luck.
Yeah, definitely a bit of luck. You know, like in 2011 we lost to New Zealand. It should have gone.
And sorry, as I'm right, that we were flying that World Cup.
No, we were flying.
We were absolutely flying.
Yeah, we had beaten India. We'd beaten Australia in warm-up games. We were absolutely flying.
Yeah.
And we got to New Zealand and we bowled them out for 210 or something like that. Something low, you know. And we had a massive partnership going, and it was just like, you call it luck, you know. Callis leant back, played this incredible pull. They had the tallest man on the boundary over there, and the ball like just kind of swung. It was going for six and just kind of like swung, moved like a draw, you know, or fade, and a draw. And Jacob Oram like on the boundary, big jump,
massive
catch. Anybody else 6, you know, and you go on and you get another 30 runs out of that partnership, and we walk the game.
And he probably only catches that 1 time out of 10 or whatever. So I mean,
and then all of a sudden, you know, like a little bit of panic, a run out, something here, something there, and bang, you know, and you're knocked out. You lose the game.
And did you feel like, 15 we got close. Feel like 11 we were actually. The conditions in India is probably difficult to say, but did you actually feel like that squad at that time, you get to that New Zealand game, well, the confidence after bowling them out for 220 in a quarterfinal, did you feel like this is our crowning?
Oh, yeah. That and 2015.
Well, we had an amazing side in both World Cups. So.
Oh, yeah, and both of them just never felt like we were ever going to lose a game. We were just we would play a bad game. Sure, we lost 1 or 2 in whatever, but never felt like we were going to. The World Cup was ours. We were going to win it. And probably the thing is that maybe some of the players, I know certainly myself in 2015, try to play above what your average is. So like if you just play your average. Like
are you talking about forcing it a bit?
Yeah, you almost force it. Like my ODI average is like say 24 with the ball or whatever it was, and if I just do my average, like we're gonna win games. Yeah. If I try and like do like a 15, like an average of 15 or something, because I want to be exceptional at the World Cup, then you play outside of what you normally do, and things go pear-shaped really quickly. And I always thought that that's what you had to do at a World Cup. You had to play better than you normally play, but you don't have to.
Actually, you're already the best side.
You're already. You just got to do what you do.
Which makes it crazy because, in a way, that cumulative pressure every time of being the best, not doing it, being the best, not doing it,
or being in with a shout, not
even kind of that concept of. Like you weren't even part of the squads that didn't do it before, but it still somehow plays a role because it builds up.
It builds up.
Yeah, it definitely does because it's something that we talk about. It certainly played a role. Like we were talking about in pre-camps that we were going to get called chokers and this kind of thing.
Was that hard to deal with?
It is hard to deal with, and it's like you said. I kind of went in with in 2011. I was like, I don't know why anyone's calling me a choker. I've never been to a World Cup before, but it wasn't about me. It was the team and who I was representing. And then as soon as I walked into a meeting, there were 1 or 2 other guys that had been to World Cups. And they would talk about it. Now all of a sudden, it's not just a small thing. It's a topic. It's a topic, of conversation, and it's like, oh, this is actually something we're going to deal with.
Yeah.
But I've never choked. I've never lost a game like that before. So
how tough was that to deal with? Being part of a squad that is called chokers, and how fair do you think the assessment is? I mean, I know it's a difficult question, but I mean. We suffer, like we don't suffer the heartbreak the extent that you do.
Yeah.
But I promise you, we with you every step of the way, and we're rooting, and it's heartbreaking for us if we don't win it.
I saw it in 2019 because I came home from the World Cup. Like my shoulder was busted. Made a decision to come home because I would have been fine by the end of the tournament, but it wouldn't have served us any good to carry a player and he can't play. So someone must go and play. They can play. And I came home and I saw when we would lose a game, I saw how this is the first time I've been at home for a World Cup, and I was watching the country, like I'd drive to Pick and Pay the day of a game, and guys are wearing their Protea shirts. It's the first time that I experienced that, where I was like, people are like, they're supporting, they're watching from home today and they're wearing their Protea shirts. And then you could see the people the next day, like they're upset, visibly upset if we've lost or something. So it means a lot to everyone. And trust me, it means a lot to the players too.
No, of course.
Because it's kind of like all you work for 4 years. And I think that's what our biggest problem was in 2015 was that nobody really told the players that there's only one team that wins this. Just remember, guys, there's only one team in this whole tournament that's going to be winners. Even the team that loses in the final may as well have came stone last, because they win nothing. So mentally prepare yourself to lose rather than win. Does that make sense? Because winning, if you just prepare to win, and you don't, and you've got nothing to fall back on.
Statistically, it makes a lot of sense. For a lot of instances, it's you're not going into a World Cup the only great team there. There are a lot of great teams,
and it's cricket. Yeah. It can swing,
and it's knockout. It's knockout sport. Once you get to that stage, and cricket, as he said, in one ball, everything can change.
Yeah. Everything,
and
so the big thing was not don't prepare to lose. We don't want to lose, but just be aware that because this is what happened at the end of that tournament was that we had only seen success. We were just we are winning this World Cup. Then you lose to New Zealand. And the next day you wake up and that is not there. It's gone. And you feel like you're just wandering in the world. aimlessly. You've got nothing. You know.
So your
just,
point is more of a like holistic life sense rather than a cricket sense.
Yeah.
Be aware
So
that
just
losing
be
isn't the
aware
end of the world, but it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And just be aware that most likely this is what can happen.
Yeah.
You know, for every other team but one team.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's a difficult thing to wrap all your head around. But when you go to something that's that big, that takes you 4 years to prep for, because that's all you're prepping for. You're getting ready for that World Cup final. That's it. But you must also be aware that you should prep for the possibility of losing and what happens then.
It's also somewhat sad that the World Test Championship or whatever they call it didn't exist.
When
Yeah,
you guys
Yeah, that would have been nice.
I mean, do you think? I mean, obviously, you can plead the fifth here, but do you think South Africa, we maybe got it wrong with our mental prep for going to World Cups once or twice, or do you think, like I said, it was just that in certain moments things just didn't work out for us, or
a bit of both. Yeah, a bit of both. I think we tried maybe one or two different approaches that worked differently for us. I mean, I can remember like going into the 2015 World Cup, like the big thing was the economy rates of bowlers in the last 10 overs, and South Africa had the best bowling lineup in the death overs. And we had done things a certain way, but then the theme of the World Cup was Yorkers. Trent Boult and Mitchell Starc, two left-arm quicks, were bowling Yorkers, and they were being successful. So obviously you do kind of go with the trend of what's working, you know, because you don't want to kind of go against the grain, so to speak, but you also need to do what's worked for you to get you there. So we changed our thinking in the death was to go like slightly fuller, for example, because that's what we saw was working. And but
wasn't our strength.
Yeah, it wasn't our strength.
Yeah.
You know, like 10, I felt like the 15 ODIs leading up to the World Cup, we were the best bowling lineup because we did this. And we did it this way, and these are the guys that bowled. And that's why we were the number one team when we went to the World Cup. But when we got to the World Cup, teams are doing things differently. We're like, oh, we need to do this now. And it wasn't our strength, and we paid the penalty a little bit, you know. So yeah, sometimes a little bit of thinking, and it's a small thing. It might only have cost us one game, but it could have cost us that one big game that meant momentum and blah 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 blah. So yeah, sometimes the thinking, but also just shit luck. Honestly, that game there in Auckland. Like
the
rain, and then how they worked out the AB and Miller were flying. You know, I can't even remember what it was, so I'm not going to moan about it. You know, but I can just remember going.
We've also felt like we've been.
I just remember going back and thinking, well, take the rain out, surely, you know, and it would have been a completely different
game. We were flying, and I mean that semi-final. You had the unfortunate job of bowling that final over, which I don't wish upon anyone, especially after I already felt like we did well to got the score we got after the rain, because we would have had a lot more had it not been for it. That feeling, obviously heartbreaking. I mean, did that take a lot out of you as a person? Because you probably knew with the stage of your career we're in, close to your prime with a lot of players around you.
Massive.
That is like, it's kind of like, wow, guys, there's a big one that's gone now, and you felt like kind of helpless in a sense.
Huge, but like the thing is that the moment you walk into the dressing room, like I'm one of the older guys in the dressing room at that point, and you can see like a young guy like Quinny, like he's distraught, you know, he's in tears, and then there's other guys, and I'm thinking to myself, the worst thing in my life has just happened. Like the worst thing in my personal cricketing career has just happened. I've run in and I've bowled, and I've just been hit for 6 to get us knocked out of the World Cup. You know, you can't think of anything fucking worse than that. Okay? And I'm looking at these guys, and they are broken. Hey, Riley Rousseau, like tears. Quinny de Kock. So I'm like, okay, pull your big point bands up here and do your job. You know, and now I'm the one who's hurting. Hey, I just bowled that ball, but I go to all these guys, I pick them up, and I'm like, guys, there's going to be another one. 2 years, there's going to be a 2020 World Cup. 4 years, you get another crack at this. I promise you, you're going to be okay. And that was the job, you know. And then get into your hotel room and fucking break everything. You know? But at that time, right there and there, it's like you need to step up, you know.
Yeah.
Even for the coaches, you know, you walk into the bathroom and there's a coach, you know, and he's crying there at the toilet, and you put your arm around him and you be like, it's gonna be okay, you know.
Yeah.
And guys are like, how are you doing that? And I'm like, this is what you have to do, you know.
Yeah.
This is the job didn't finish out there, you know. The job continues.
Yeah, nowadays, I mean, it's gotten to such an interesting point for me where it's almost like I don't feel like I put as much weight on the whole like chokers tag or anything. Limited overs cricket for me is more of an equalizer than test cricket, I would say. And our team is always good enough to get a result against pretty much anyone.
Yeah.
And now, for me, every World Cup is almost like if the rub of the green goes our way, there's always the chance that we'd be able to do it.
Yeah.
It comes from a feeling where the humbling thing about it is we had 2 great teams in 11 and 15 and we didn't get over the line. So now there's also that feeling that we'll always have a competitive team and we need a bit of rubber again. What I feel like is until we don't win one, and I say this for basically every team that's done it. Look at England's World Cup. Until we don't win one, and they had a lot of luck winning that, you don't really know the formula.
Yeah.
You need that first one, you need the rubber, the green, just one moment to go for you.
Absolutely.
And then you can build a formula that works to
Absolutely.
be. And it's also the breaking of the mental thing where now we've won it.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said with the Australia thing, you know, the first time we went down there, that was the big thing for me, was that we've won in Australia. Now you break that mental barrier where anytime you go to Australia, we can win. And if you win a World Cup, you're right, you know, once you win a World Cup and you figured that out and you've broken that mental barrier, you can win many, you know. So I'm also under the impression that once South Africa wins a World Cup, we'll win 2 or 3, you know, in 10 years or 12 years, or like whether it be 2020 or one day cricket.
And for me, it almost feels like, as it always happens, it will probably be
when you least expect it.
When we are written off. Where we're we're not terrible, but people are going to be like, we're like not in the top 4 maybe to do it. And, and it's funny because even the last couple of years, it's always a possibility, but then something ridiculous happens. I mean,
the last World Cup, last 2020 World Cup, not the one in Australia, the one before that, we lost. We didn't lose a game.
We didn't lose a game until.
And we were out on a net run rate, you know, because we got the runs too slowly against Bangladesh or something, you know, and it's like there again, you know, it's another thing. It's like, and now you go home and you are distraught, you know, as a team,
it's
you're
like
distraught.
the end of the world.
Yeah. But again, you got to go to the guys and you're like, guys, you know, there's like 9 other teams that are going home that are also like they didn't win, you know, and so like there you're thinking a little bit of luck, you know, goes your way, and not the best team on paper, but you could walk away with it, you know.
Yeah, like lately I feel like we've almost moved from the elite test side almost to our limited overs might be actually our stronger format. So at the end of the day, we're always going to be there supporting the boys and see what happens.
Just saw the squad today for the Australia series and it looks quite good.
I saw Devil Brevis got included. I must actually drop him.
And Gerald Coetzee as well.
Gerald Coetzee. He's at least played a couple, so he's good. I'm happy for Brevis. He's been around the world, and I think it's his biggest thing is that he wants to play for South Africa. So
that's great.
I love it when it happens, you know, because I'm like, you set a goal in place, but now that's you know, that's not the goal now. The goal is now
the next step needs.
The next step, you got to stay there. You know, and the way to stay there is you got to score hundreds.
Yeah,
so go for it. You know.
And then, wrapping up a little World Cup segment. This year's World Cup favourites, South Africa's chances, young players you're looking to see. Just if you could, what comes to your mind? I know you say you don't necessarily watch cricket all the time now, but you got to be working for our listeners. They was going to be doing commentary at the World Cup. So, favourite South Africa's chances, young players you're looking forward to see. What's your take on I think it's going to be an exciting World Cup.
Yeah, it's going to be a good World Cup. South Africa always got a good chance because we always play well in the subcontinents.
Yeah.
And I think Heinrich Klaasen, probably the best batter in the world right now. Against spin. Yeah. And David Miller, the form that he's in and the way that he's been batting at the IPL in India, that will serve us well. Aiden Markram's looked good. Quinny's played a lot there. And our bowlers play a lot of IPL, so they should be smart enough to, do that. Who are they going to take as a spinner? I'm not too sure.
That's what I was wondering.
Kesh did his leg recently, his Achilles, so we'll see if he recovers and if he gets any cricket.
And then there's Bjorn and Shamsi, right? The other two options.
Shamo is a wicket taker, and Bjorn's more like a kind of container. And
slide overs past them quickly.
But we can get guys. We can work with it. I hope that in this World Cup that they take somebody that's in form. I think that's the most important thing. You don't want to go to a World Cup with one of the best informed players, even if he's not a regular, sitting on the shores of South Africa. Like if a guy is in form, take him. Take that guy. If he's red hot, take him. He's going to do well for you. So there's always enough space to squeeze one player in, and one player will be unlucky, but it will be that one guy that's good. He must go. So, and I don't know who that's going to be. Time will tell. We've got a series against Australia coming up and whatnot. That gives the guys a little bit of an opportunity to show what they're worth. But yeah, always a good chance. But India at home,
favourite.
They're going to be tough.
And Australia.
They're always good at World Cups. You talk about that formula. They just seem to know how to do it. I
actually think Pakistan is going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, listen, all the teams are so close. You just got to. England again, good team. The way they're playing. New Zealand, dark horses.
Always. No Stokes though.
Yeah, Sri Lanka could sneak in. Yes, it's just like. And then a must-win game, you could lose to a Bangladesh or something like that.
There will probably be someone that everyone has written off that will produce and reach a semi-final. It seems to always happen.
Yeah.
Well, it just seems inevitable that New Zealand will reach the semi-finals.
Yeah.
I mean,
they always
talk about chokers. Surely talk about chokers. They've finals they've lost. They've never won a World Cup.
But them, it's like when they reach it, everybody's like, they're such a small country.
Which is
so few cricketers they've reached it. But when we reach it and lose, it's like, chokers.
It's hilarious that you just mentioned, because I was just about to refer to them as almost like the antithesis of us, in the sense that
they overachieve.
They overachieve always.
But also, you have to win something at some stage, right? If you get in that position and continue.
So they won the Test Championship last year. I'm like, sure. You played 4 Test matches.
How do you feel about that? By the way, there's a lot of talk about the ICC in Test cricket. Just looking after the big 3.
Yeah.
Do you think it's valid? And how do you feel for a guy like KG who would... I mean, everybody talks about Broad and Anderson getting thousands of wickets, but we've got the best fast bowler in the world and he can't play Test cricket.
The guy's playing 3 Test matches a year. So everyone's like, is KG going to break your record? Because I broke Polly's record. And I'm like, I really hope he does, because that's what people are supposed to do. But if he doesn't do it, I don't see anybody else doing it, because we don't play any cricket, And... the guy's playing 4 Test matches a year, this is not fair.
How did that happen? How did it come to this?
I don't know, is it CSA to blame? Or are they prioritising white ball cricket and T20 cricket? I'm not too sure. I don't know what happens when it comes to financial money and who makes the decisions.
Because it really does feel those 3 sides get favoured when it comes to Test cricket. I mean, the stats show it.
Yeah. Well, I do know, something simple back in the day would be one 2020 against India was worth more than a full series against a team like New Zealand. So a full series would be 1 Test match, 3 ODIs, 2 T20s. That's a full series. Okay, so 1 T20 against India would earn you more money than a full series against, say, New Zealand.
Wow.
So, South Africa, if they get 3 T20s against India in India, they'll take it. And they would give up 3 Test matches against New Zealand to go and do that.
Oh, okay.
If that makes sense, So don't you can quote me, go for it. But that's how I believe this is what works, So we get enfolded there.
It's almost difficult in the sense that the other nations almost don't need to kind of run it as a profit-making enterprise. They just kind of they do it because it's national cricket. But whereas we kind of. Yeah. It's like, the money, it's important.
And we need it. You were talking about it earlier, about the local domestic cricket and stuff like that. Where's the support, financial support? All right, cool. Where does that come from? It comes from the top, the Proteas. They make the money. But they're not playing any Test matches.
Yeah, which hopefully, you'd hope that in the long run, this SA20 league and stuff like that might benefit us, even in that front where there's cash coming through in other areas, that you maybe be able to shore up that, and people actually realize We need Test cricket, and I think maybe also again a good summer of Test cricket in South Africa would be beneficial as well. Get the stadiums full.
Absolutely.
We're having India this summer.
Yeah, like a nice. It's just. I mean, we always talk about the New Year's.
To see KG up into
New Year's Test. New Year's. I mean,
No, it's great.
We haven't
the
had
problem
it.
is with like a KG now, so he's got to look forward to that Test match. What happens if he gets injured? You know, like he's waited a whole year to play his 2 Test matches.
No, it's unfair.
Yeah.
But probably, sorry, you know what to say?
No.
Yeah, probably, I mean, chatted a lot about cricket, and was your point about cricket, then you should probably go.
No, my point was not about cricket.
I've got a completely different, and what would be my final cricket point, before we wrap and move on to your life post-retirement and what you're busy with now. Just, I think probably what made you my favourite bowler and a lot of people's favourite bowler is your celebrations. And having spent a few hours with you now, and also just from what I've seen before I met you, you seem like a very chilled and relaxed guy away from cricket. Looking at your hobbies and what you do. Where did those celebrations come from, and that absolute, the eyes and
look, I don't know.
because I mean that was the highlight.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, it just kind of happened, you know, and then there was a season where I was playing for the Titans and I was getting loads of wickets and I was celebrating like that, and it just kind of went. It just just carried on. I don't know. I don't even know how it happened, you know. And then there was a period where I decided not to do it because I was like, if I don't earn a wicket, then I'm not going to celebrate. And I remember Faf coming to me and I was getting a wicket and I wasn't celebrating that much. He'd come to me, he's like, why are you not celebrating?
It lifts the whole team.
Yeah, that's
lifts the whole country.
I said, no, and then the guy just flicked it off his legs and got caught at square leg. You know, it's not really something to celebrate.
Yeah.
He's like, no, you don't understand. Like, when you celebrate, like, people get out of their seats, and when you celebrate, this team wants to run through brick walls with you. You know, He's like, you need to celebrate. And I was like, all right, I've got you. Yeah. So then it kind of came back a little bit. Yeah.
Well, that's great. I mean, it's good. It's good to see. I think everyone always thought it was maybe just a personal thing, but it's obviously because of instruction.
I think it started out as a personal thing, and then
no, I love it. I mean, just to wrap up, life post cricket for you seems to have treated you well. I mean, as a man with many hobbies. I mean, we just spoke earlier about your wild fishing trip that's upcoming. Hopefully we'll get to see you again after that. You know, eaten by some sort of giant snake or a weird spider somewhere. But I mean, just apart from of the odd punditry gig that we see you at, and
you coach.
You coach as well. Just maybe a quick rundown of maybe any other extracurricular activities you keep yourself busy with.
I have 3 border collies that keep me busy all the time. So my dogs are the main thing. But I just wanted to I actually didn't want to do much coaching. I wanted to take some time away from the game a little bit. And I'm not a big sport watcher at the moment. Like, I don't have a TV. So like, I don't even know what's happening in sport. I mentioned this earlier. So when it comes to coaching, it becomes quite a difficult thing for me, because then if I know that I'm coaching in January, like by November, I'm starting to get a little bit of an itch where I'm like, yes, maybe I should start watching something.
Imposter syndrome.
What are the trends?
Exactly. Exactly.
You don't want to pitch up and tell everyone to bowl Yorkers while nobody's actually bowling Yorkers.
You don't know what the trends are, and so I got to get back into it a little bit. But so I do a bit of coaching. And once you're in it, it's quite good. And once you get talking, it's like this. You start to realize, there's a lot of knowledge here. You know, we'll find it. You know, we'll find something that works for you. You know, and if it doesn't work for you, that's fine too. You know, hopefully this conversation will, and I'm talking about with a player, will spur you on to have another one with somebody else where you can find the answer to the problem is that you're looking for. If I can't help you, so. And then that's all it is really. It just becomes conversation. And I think the biggest thing about coaching is you just got to show up, you know. You just got to show up for these guys. You just got to be there and show presence and willing to chat and whatever. And they're professionals; they'll be fine. So, but a little bit of coaching, looking after dogs, a lot of fishing, a lot of surfing, and at the moment a broken leg. So
hopefully not for too long.
No,
maybe
hopefully not getting worse when you jet off on your fishing trip.
All fall down the stairs that I had to walk up here.
Yeah, no, not that. And maybe anything interesting planned, or just keep on?
Yeah, I'll just carry on Nothing really, just some great fishing trips. Like when I was young, I grew up with my best mate Brett, and we watched ESPN and we watched like guys catching fish at all these different places. We grew up fishing together. It's like what I did, and now it's quite nice. Like I sit in a position where I'm like, we can go to these places, you know, like
which you watched on ESPN.
Yes, you know. So we're starting to tick them off, you know, tick them
special.
off the list, and it's really nice because I get to take him, and he's my best mate. We get to do that together. So we do like 3 fishing trips a year minimum.
Wow.
And then try and squeeze in like a surf trip there too. So, you know, if you're doing 4 trips a year, that's a busy year, you know, that's one every 3 months.
In between the coaching.
Yeah, in between coaching and everything like that, yeah.
Sounds like you should actually get a Discovery or a Showmax or someone in on your fishing trips. That might be something interesting.
Yeah.
Seeing as you're not the most active guy on social media, maybe to keep the fans up to date with your fishing.
I've got to, every now and then I just drop a whole bunch so that people know I'm still here, I'm still here.
Alive.
Yeah, I'm still relevant. You can follow me if you want.
No, so if not for the World Cup cricket, let's maybe look out for a Netflix docu on Dale with a fishing trip. Or, I might enjoy a Dale in the Amazon or something like that. Could be
I thought about that. I thought about like a little YouTube thing, but then I was like, I don't know. It just seems like way too much effort for me. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like you alluded to earlier, you're very happy in Cape Town and South Africa, and it sounds like it also gives you the opportunity to practice your favorite hobbies.
Yes.
Fishing, surfing, and all that.
Being lazy at home.
Home.
I tell you what.
Which is clear one of your biggest hobbies. But I mean, after decade and a half of touring the world, being stuck in hotel rooms, we wish that upon you to be able to be lazy at home. Especially because during that time you were making the memories we got so much to us. So you could be as much lazy as you want to for the rest of your life.
Who did I speak to this morning? Someone asked me and they said, you know, and I've lived down in Cape Town for I think 18 years or 17 years, whatever it is. But it's like only the last 6 years that I've really felt that this is home now, you know, because for the first 12 years that I lived here, I would travel so much that every time I came home to Cape Town, it was like I was on holiday. You know, like I was only going to be here for 3 weeks and then I'm on the road again. Now it's really awesome. Like I'm here and I've got a favorite deli, I've got a favorite cafe that I go to, I've got a favorite coffee place, you know, whereas back in the day, people were like, let's go for lunch at Olympia Cafe. And I'm like, this place is amazing. It's been there for 20 years, you know, like it's someone's local, you know. So now it's really nice that I'm at home and I get to just live, you know. It's just kind of cool.
Yeah, I think on that wholesome note,
sure.
we should end it.
Yeah, we know your time is valuable and you've done us a massive favour.
Absolutely huge for the manne van hierdie ding.
Ja.
Go English. I hope our English held up alright.
Julle het baie goed gedoen. Ek gaan nou eindig met my Afrikaans.
And before we sign off, I'd like to read three of the most random Dale Steyn statistics I've managed to found. So you spent the record 263 weeks as ICC #1 test bowler, which amounted in total to a number of 2,356 days as the #1 test bowler in the world, which is remarkable in itself. My second favorite statistic is the fact, well, other than being in the ICC test team of the decade, Wisdom cricket or whatever, is that you were the fastest bowler to reach 400 test wickets in terms of balls. I don't know if you knew that. You're a big stat.
No, I just know this shit.
16,634 balls, which is incredible. And then my favorite Dale Steyn statistic is that you played a cameo of yourself in an Adam Sandler movie.
Yes.
A romantic comedy blended.
Mm-hmm. I was today years old when I found that out, by the way.
He didn't know about it. I knew about it, but I forgot about it until I read it in our pre-chat prep. So for the listeners, I'm sure you've seen Dale Steyn in his glory bowling, but go check out Blended, the romantic comedy where Dale Steyn rubs shoulders with Hollywood. And leave a review on IMDb.
Yeah.
So that hopefully gains more traction.
The best thing is that I'm still tight with Adam Sandler. That's really? The coolest thing.
Is he the most famous person on your phone? You reckon AB? You reckon AB takes it?
The Prince of Pretoria, De Villiers might.
Yeah,
he's got more followers on
Instagram. It's skewed though. That's geographically.
Yeah.
Adam Sandler probably the most famous person.
Yeah. But John, Dale, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, thanks guys.
I think awesome. After this we'll pinch yourself for a while that we had the opportunity to chat to you. Thanks for coming through and
you're welcome.